So hello and welcome guys to another Oaken Tower video. Today we're doing a tier list about the perks, the 24 perks in the game. And big shout out to oaken.gg. It's a very nice website which has many different things, leaderboards, builds, the tavern, codex, wiki, where you can find the items, builds. You can make a build here and test it out, and also get the tools and the tier list maker. So here we can make our own tier list. So today we'll talking about the perks, and we'll start with the tempo perk. Tempo perk is plus 10 gold and a random 15 gold item. I think that's a very solid B. So you get a, most of the time you get a 15 gold weapon, 10 gold to start. Quite a solid start. So the next perk is the Scorch perk. You start with a wildfire and gain a burn slot. I think that's a kind of weak perk, because the wildfire is quite slow in the beginning and the burn slot doesn't scale that much. So toxic, another perk. The toxic perk, you start with a refined spear and gain a poison slot. I made, I think, 2 videos about that, about the refined spear and the poison slot. Poison is always good for against shielding, and so toxic, this perk belongs for me in the A category. The Chosen perk. So you get a heal slot, which gives you 10 heal, and your healing can crit. That's really difficult to manage, like we've seen. It's kind of like a C, or maybe because you can't out heal max damage, and the timer when it scales up too much, I think for me it's a D tier. The Lucky perk. You start with a random 15 gold item and you gain 2% luck at day 3 and day 8. Luck is very important in the game, so with the higher luck you get the higher chance on lucky rerolls, and lucky rerolls can break the game for you, can win you the run. So I think it's also an A tier perk. So you also start with 15 gold, a random 15 gold item, which is most of the time a weapon. Basically pretty strong. The Turtle. Gain a shield slot and your shielding can crit for ×2 shield. That's, I would say, the same like the Chosen perk. But I think shield is better than heal. So I'm gonna put it into C tier. And next, the Strike perk. You start with a silver lance and gain a multicast slot. For me, that's an S tier. The silver lance is a strong moon weapon, and the multicast slot you could use for everything. You could use it on the lost fragment, or the time pendant, on the dream catcher, whatever you want. With the multicast slot on the 8, it's kind of late, but that's a strong perk. Yeah, that for me that's an S tier. The Darkness perk at next. It's you start with the Twilight's Edge, the Dark Sword, and you gain a night slot at day 7. For me that's also a S tier. With the the Twilight's Edge is kind of okay, but with the night slot you can do crazy stuff. For example, the Warbow. You can put the Warbow on it, or Astral Hammer. So you can buff so many items. The night slot is very strong. The candies are situational. When you have, with a witch build, when you have enough luck and get enough gold, you can re-roll like crazy, get more candies, but for not going endless for 10 trophies for the normal game, I think it's only C tier. Or even only D tier. What else? You start with 5 gold, gain a piece of candy, day 4 ongoing. Yeah, I think that's, for me it's only D tier. The treasure. On level 5 gain an epic chest, and the chests contain 4 items instead of 3. That's, I think, a solid B tier. Because gain an epic chest on level 5, nice, you want to level up fast, but you also want to collect 15 gold items to get as many chests as possible, because your chances of hitting the right item are quite high, so it's solid B. The power perk. So you start with a damage slot and a crit slot. That's some basic. For me it's C. It doesn't power up, and so I think it's only C tier. The electric perk. Start with a shock slot and 5 gold. Day 4 the shock slot gains, no, you get plus 5 shock damage. So that's a D tier. In the beginning, the first, until day 3, 4, 5, it's strong, but then it falls off massively. The shock, when you don't hire the shock damage, when you don't get the shield, when you don't get the mace, shock's too weak later on. The Archmage perk. You start with a random common spellbook and gain a magic slot. I would say put it on C. You can get crazy combinations with that, because it's for magic and spells, but it's very situational. So hard to deliver the right build for this. Now gathering. You start with 3 rerolls and you will have 3 encounter options instead of 2. That belongs into S tier for me. Because start with 3 rerolls, nice, you can go for the 15 gold item you want in the beginning. Pretty good. Or save it until you have a high chance for epics to reroll there. And you will have 3 encounter options instead of 2. That could mean you nearly almost get Celestia for the level 3 upgrade, or you get the Frosty Lady, so you always get the encounter you want. Then that's very important. Encounters can also change your complete run. The Hex slot. I think you start with a Void Spike, nice, I've made a good run with it, and you gain a Hex slot. Hex slot gives start of day a random debuff to the item that is on the Hex slot. But day 7 is kind of late to give it to the Arcane Book or anything else. I like to put the Void Spike in it so it buffs itself. But I think it's a solid perk, yeah. Next is a stock perk. You start with 5 gold and the shop contains 8 items instead of 7. That's good for in the beginning to roll for 15 gold items. You have higher chances. You have 1 item more in the shop. Higher chances for me, solid B. Essential oils I would put into C tier. It's very dependable on the essence you get. Do you get the goblin and the wrench at the same time? It's nearly over. Do you get the Frosty and the Frosty Lady with the Lost Fragment and the Dreamcatcher, and you multicast like crazy? But with, for example, the Witch essence, it doesn't mean that much. So for me it's C tier. The melee, the Bone Club. You start with a Bone Club and then day 3 gain a melee slot, so you have higher melee damage on this slot. I really like that, because you could go for the Bone Club to level it up to level 2, give it multicast with the Mace Book, and I think for me it's B tier. The melee slot also buffed that, yeah. The artillery perk. You start with a regular bow and you gain an artillery slot. With the bow, with multicast on the bow, that could be quite dangerous, because each of The projectiles, the bow shots, which is lying on this artillery slot, also triggers the bleed. So when you can stack up bleed, it's a quite dangerous perk. So, but I would put it into C tier. When you don't get enough bleed, it doesn't mean that much. At next perk we have the flash sale. You start with 5 gold, and the first shop on day 3, 8 and 11 will be on sale. I really like this perk. I consider it putting S tier, because you can, the first 2 days you level, you get the max HP buff, and then before the day 3 you could roll your favorite shop, lock it, and on day 3 it will be on sale. And you could get a huge amount of items on sale. So you have a quite nice build on day 4. And the same to day 8, you can level up and then choose your perfect shop to be on sale on day 8 and day 11. So I really like it. For me it's A tier. The merge perk. Obtaining 2 2-star items will combine them into a 3-star item, and only works once and from day 7 on. The importance is you have to save the item. It's not when you have 2 2-star items day 7 they merge, so you have to buy the last item for the combination on day 7 ongoing. So keep that in mind. I kind of like that pretty much, but I always lose with that, because you want to roll in the beginning and don't level up to get the common item that you need. So I would put it into C tier. The growth perk. You get a time slot. The time slot reduces on start of day the cooldown from the item from 5 to 5%. So 5% cooldown reduction per day. That's not very much. It's nice for the Doom guide, for example, for an item which has a high cooldown. But I think for me it's D tier. The same goes for Gambit. For the perk Gambit. You start with a random epic item on day 2, but you have 25 HP and 15 gold less. That's very hard to overcome. So it's a challenging perk. The random epic item can be nothing crazy, can be a very unspecial, not fitting item. So challenging, so I put it into C tier. And yeah, the random perk. So you get a random perk each game. This provides a little extra rating in ranked. It's 10%, and because we're playing it so much, I would put it into S tier because of the 10% rating change. So what do you think about my tier list? Let me know in the comments, and post your tier list, and go to oaken.gg and try to create your own tier list. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you in the next. Bye bye.